Hey guys, happy Easter. Today is the day we get to celebrate Jesus rising again. But if I was to ask you a question, if I was to ask you about what festival or holiday do you prefer? Is it Christmas or is it Easter? I have a feeling many of you would probably say Christmas. And maybe you say Christmas because you have the lights, you have loads of food, the presents. But Easter, growing up, I mentioned last week, we might get Easter clothes, we might get Easter eggs, but it doesn't seem to generate the same level of excitement. And I'd argue this wasn't the case for the first Christians. Easter was the event, it was the festival, it was the celebration. And the reason why is because at Easter we celebrate that Jesus came back to life. Now, that might be something that you've already heard or you're bored of hearing already today. But it's so important. In this series, Afterlife, we're thinking about some people whose lives were changed because of the resurrection. Why? Because it actually changes everything. And today we're going to be thinking about Mary Magdalene. You may have heard her as she was one of the followers of Jesus. And actually in 3 accounts of the Bible, at Jesus' burial, she was present. And she was actually known to begin with as an outcast, and no one cared, and she didn't seem to matter. And how often can we feel like Mary too? We can feel like no one cares about us, or during this past year we might not have heard from some of our friends as much as we normally would have, and maybe it feels like they haven't thought about us. And as we've not been able to meet up with people, we feel like we might have missed out, or we've missed events or gatherings or even school, and it might feel like we don't really matter at all. And there may have been thoughts in this past year you felt just like Mary, you felt like you were an outcast. But Jesus thinks differently. And firstly, Jesus healed Mary and she became a follower of Jesus. And then the most significant thing happened in her life was when she was to follow. And when Jesus died and was buried and he was left in the tomb for the whole of Saturday, as Jesus went, the Jewish people weren't allowed to actually see Jesus, as it was the Sabbath. And on Sunday morning she came and she ran to the tomb, and it was what this says in John's Gospel. It says this: "Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw 2 angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been. And one at the head and the other at the foot. And she asked here, 'Woman, why are you crying?' Then, 'They have taken my Lord away,' she said, 'and I don't know where they have put him.' At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't realise that it was Jesus. He asked her, 'Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?' Thinking he was the gardener, she said, 'Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him.' And Jesus said to her, 'Mary.' And she turned towards him and cried in Arabic, 'Rabboni,' which means teacher. And Jesus said, 'Do not hold on to me, for I am not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to tell my brothers and tell them I am ascending to the Father and your Father, to my God and your God.' And Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, 'I have seen the Lord,' and she told them what he had said and these things to her." You see, Mary Magdalene was the first person to see Jesus after the resurrection. And this was crazy, because in the time of when this was done and this happened, women weren't seen as reliable, they weren't seen as trustworthy, they were actually seen as inferior. And the fact that Jesus chose Mary Magdalene to be the person to first announce the good news, this changes everything. Jesus showed Mary how much she mattered and how much he valued her by doing this. This Easter Sunday is a reminder that we can take Jesus seriously. When he defeated death, we can trust what he says, and Jesus says to Mary that she mattered, and you mattered too. This is why Easter matters. If we really believe this and what God is saying, he says that we matter because of the resurrection. And actually, how does that have an impact? How would we treat ourselves and others because of this? And that's the challenge I want to leave you with today. Because the resurrection showed that you matter. I want you to have a great Easter and have a great day celebrating what Jesus has done for you. See you next time, guys.